Hello, and thank you for joining us today on the Gentle Art of Crushing It show, where we focus on learning and sharing with our listeners all there is to know about how to create success in our lives. This show stands on the shoulders of giants. Our mission is to empower and inspire our listeners to create the life of their dreams whilst having a blast in the process. Let's celebrate life together. Welcome to the show.
All right, welcome back to the Gentle Art of Crushing It show. My name's Randy Smith, and I'll be the host today. And really excited to have Vinki Loomba with us today. Vinki is the founder and CEO of Loomba Investment Group. She has been a professor at Cal State University, primarily with an IT background. She's also the host of the Real Estate Vibe show. So Vinki, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Randy. I'm super excited to be with you today. Thanks.
Yeah. Well, why don't we jump right in? Can you tell the audience a little bit more about yourself, other than what I already shared?
I'm an open book. You pretty much share everything. Like you mentioned, I'm a CEO of the Loomba Investment Group. I started my real estate journey alongside my long career in IT and academia. Like you mentioned, I was an IT executive for about 22 years. And with that, I was also teaching at California State University, the MBA program for about 11 years. I used to teach 2 courses every semester, again in the IT domain, because IT was my kind of to-go thing, because that's what I learned and that's what I did all my career. But beside that, I had a small real estate portfolio as well. When we built our second home, we were in a position to rent our first one. So by default, we became landlords. And that's how we learned about the passive income. And now we started multiplying that. And during that time, I took my realtor license as well. So, but I never sold a single home. And we just wanted to learn more about real estate. So I thought that'll be the best way to learn. So, but I went into retail. So sold some businesses and started investing into the business side, retail side. But, in the long run, I would say, past all that, when I took the early retirement from my position from the corporate job, I stepped back into real estate with a different focus, different purpose, and started in the multifamily. And because I learned about multifamily, and I felt like, oh my God, how come I didn't know about this thing? For me, it was just like so soothing and kind of hands-free investment. And all of a sudden, it just gave me whatever I was looking for.
Are you interested in real estate investing but don't know where to get started or think you don't have the time or money? Are you stuck in your W-2 because the golden handcuffs make it hard to walk away? If this sounds like you, check out impactequity.net and schedule some time to talk with the founder, Randy Smith. Randy went from massive income to leaving his W-2 through passive income, and he can help you do the same. www.impactequity.net.
I love it. Well, thank you. That kind of gives me a good overview. It sounds like you're a very active person. So working a full-time career, also teaching 2 courses per semester. You're a very, very busy individual, it sounds like. And then you found real estate as well. Now, I think you mentioned you went into retail as well. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, because what happened was, when I got my realtor license, I was not interested in selling homes. Because remember, I had a corporate job. I was working at the time full time in the IT space. So this was kind of my weekend job. So I thought on the weekends, because, young and invincible, used to think when you're in 20s, I can just achieve whatever I want. So that's the mindset I had. So, excuse me. So I didn't want to go into a residential sale, but I went into the retail. And just, I can tell you one thing, it's kind of embarrassing, but the commission was more on the retail side. It was a 6%, it was 10% commission. So being young, my goal was, to get the financial freedom. My thing was how quickly I can do that. Because I know my day job, I can do it by the back of my hand, without thinking, and how I can add more to it, and then I can accumulate right away. So that kind of led me into retail. So it was like more like gas stations, fast food, or liquor stores. So we started doing that, and also investing in that too. But for the course of period, we realized that was way too much, between the two corporate jobs, two young kids, and lots of travel. Because if you recall, in those days, we didn't used to have the remote working. And actually, I was the first one in my department. We tested the VPN first time, and then I was able to work from home. But before that, it was a lot of travel. And I recall one time I just flew back from Chile or somewhere, and I just put my bags down. My husband was ready to leave the house with his bags, and he told me, he's like, "Hey, I know you're invincible, but you gotta pick one career for yourself because our kids are not getting our time. So you have to
Sure.
decide whatever you wanted to do in your life." So from then onwards, we started kind of reducing our footprint there, that we were managing ourselves.
Okay.
And fast forward, kind of move into passive investing and just
Sure.
started the journey all over again onto the active side.
Well, okay. So you actually reached a point where you were trying to do these essentially active investing and a secondary career, and you kind of came to a head and you had to make a choice what you were going to do, and you moved towards passive investing, it sounds like. So yeah, maybe if we can you talk about some of those early investments that you found in the passive investing space and what really kind of caught your interest in that space?
Sure. My first investment was with my 401k, because I
Okay.
did not know this multifamily or the syndication exited in this world, tell you the truth. We just knew
Sure.
about, how to just buy a single family home or duplex. That we learned by default as well. So there was not a lot of resources or a lot of people are willing to share the knowledge, because it was like way too much corporate mindset, you know.
Sure.
If you remember that, if you ever work in the corporate mindset is just like, very limited, kind of, you wanted to retain the information to yourself. You don't want it to share. It's like the job security or whatever other insecurities you have in your mind. So we came from that world. So our world was expanding, but not exponentially.
Sure.
It's
Sure.
growing slowly. And then we just, uh, by default, we just got into this multifamily. And I started learning about it. And then I learned about a 401k, that I can use my 401k money to invest in a syndication, because syndication was a foreign term for me too when I heard first time. So when I learned about it, it's like, okay, a bunch of people are getting together. So the first question came to my mind: that how do I find that bunch of group that's putting their money together? And then I was able to find one operator. He had a good track record. So without knowing anything, without knowing any of the due diligence steps, or without having any much knowledge about the operator, I just wanted to do it, because my thing was, I just wanted to do it. I wanted to learn this thing. I just wanted to get out of my box. I put my 100K in, boom, I was in.
Sure. Sure.
So
And
that
this was
yeah, it was just like, I mean, had I have to do all over again, would I do that? Maybe not. Because
sure.
sometimes you do things unknowingly, it works in your favor, you
Yeah.
know? Sometimes it could be good and bad. And though my thing was, I was not looking for the instant return. I was looking for experience, you know? So my thing was, I'm the kind of learner who wants to do it yourself and learn. So I like to experience it, because that's the best possible way you can learn. You can read as
Yep.
many books as many you want. You can go to as many lectures. You can do whatever you wanted to do in your life. The best learning is when you do it yourself. So that's the
I
learning for me. That's my learning style. So I just did it, and then I just got started. And all of a sudden, like, so many opportunities opened up. It's like, wow. So that
yeah.
exactly happened to me. So a lot of people, they say I was at the right place at the right time. So I think I can say that. But I would say, when you're trying to help yourself, God helps you too. So when you're trying to jump, there's going to be a lot of force around you too to make your jump successful.
Yeah, no, I love that. So there's so many similarities in our stories. I didn't go the retail route. I didn't get my real estate license, but I was the accidental investors or accidental landlord as well. ended up buying single family out of state, and then found the syndication model. And I thought, oh my goodness, like this is so much better than buying single family homes. I too used my old 401k and a self-directed IRA to buy my first investment, and I wrote a $100,000 check on my first investment as well. And to your point, that is not my strategy today, but it was a great way to get started. So I'm wondering, can you talk a little bit about that self-directed process? Most of the listeners have probably heard this, but I'm sure there are folks that still don't realize that they can invest with old 401ks. Can you talk about how that process has worked for you?
Yeah, I think that's the best thing that you can do to yourself, you know. I mean, that's what I did. Had I known this before, I would have started much earlier when I was in service as well. But the thing is,
Yep.
it's just like, it's kind of hindsight, you know. Whenever the time is right, you get that opportunity to do something. So
Yep.
when I learned about that, I can use my 401k. So you cannot use your 401k assets to invest, because your 401k is usually with some company, you know, like it was with my company. So I cannot take that. You need to roll over into the self-directed IRA account. So you can do either SDRA, there's multiple custodians out there. So like bigger custodian like Schwab or Fidelity, all these big shops, they do not support the alternative investments. But you have to go to somebody else, like Adventa IRA maybe, or maybe EQRP, whatever resonates with you. I have a EQRP myself because I like the self checkbook control, because I like that control that I can move the money in and out myself out of my account. And I do have a LLC on top of that too, just for the added protection. You know, that's my way of doing things. But you can do the exact same thing with the self-directed IRA account as well. It's just like the basic thing is rolling over, not transferring, not moving. You're rolling the money over as is from one retirement account to the other retirement account. That gives you the power to grow your money exponentially. That's the way I look at it. Because the thing is, you're not taking the money out. The only caveat is that the whatever you invest in or whatever the return comes, that come back to your retirement account. But remember, it's all tax free and you're growing.
Yep. Yep. I love it. Yeah. Thank you for walking through that. And I think one thing I want to highlight that you said, when people change roles, not change roles, but change organizations, quite often people will just transfer their old 401k into a new 401k. And essentially that traps those dollars in that 401k until you end up leaving that organization. So even if you're not moving into the alternative investment space, I received some advice when I left my first 10-year stint in corporate America, where I just moved it over to a traditional IRA at that point. And that gave me options that I later was able to take advantage of by moving it into a self-directed IRA. Now, you talked a little bit about an EQRP or a checkbook control account versus an IRA. Can you talk a little bit more about the differences between those two? And I know you're not an expert in this area, but your personal experience. Yeah. I'm curious, why did you choose EQRP?
I think that's what I knew at the time, because I started my EQRP very early on. And through a friend I learned about the EQRP, and then I love those folks. They're super awesome. And it's just like they were like an extended family over the course of time. And then it's super great for me because I was looking for somewhere where I can put my money so I have a complete checkbook control. So it's like a checking account for me. So I can move my money in and out. I can transfer from my 401k to my retirement account or to my EQRP, and from there I can invest. And when it comes back, I can move the money freely. That's what I'm wanting to do. And then when I got introduced to EQRP, I'm like, boom, this is the right place that I wanted to be. Because I didn't want to go through the custodian, like the paperwork goes to the custodian. Yes, there's another layer of security over there. But my thing is, this is your investment. Who could be better custodian of your money than yourself, right? Yep. Who's going to pay attention to the deal more than yourself? So again, it's my way of doing things. It might not be applicable to everyone, Some people, they don't like that hassle. They like to work with a custodian. They like the custodian to look at the paperwork, sign the paperwork. But again, my thing is, I'm like a little bit skeptical. Like, They
Sure.
can sign the paper. They know it's a deal, but how much they know about the deal? They know you're investing and they're signing you up. Okay, you take your money, you invest. But the thing is, for me, I just wanted to know the whole 9 yard, or kind of, I need to have the holistic picture around it. So
Yeah.
that's the difference for me, going one versus other.
I love it.
Virtually.
Yeah, no, and thanks for walking through that. I know Damian Lupo. I won't say personally, but I had some interactions with him during my time in my W-2, and he's got a great organization, very, very comprehensive. The checkbook control process actually is exactly like you say. Like you get to be in control of that checkbook, where as with a true custodian, self-directed IRA custodian, they literally have to approve your transactions, and they're essentially in charge of protecting the tax benefits of that IRA. Whereas with the checkbook control account, you're responsible for that. So I think when I first started, I leaned more towards the self-directed custodian because I was afraid that I might do something that might trigger some type of taxable event, and I just didn't want that to happen. So, really, really important for listeners to know there's many different types out there. It really is based on your preference, and there's different benefits and drawbacks of both. But just get on the phone with folks from EQRP or Advanta. You mentioned they're the partner I work with, and they'll walk you through all the details. So, well, let's jump into the experience a little bit more. So you're investing with a self-directed account. You wrote, a six-figure check to get started. What did it look like from that point to where you are today? You've built a really great brand for yourself, and you're in the middle of a lot of big projects that are going on. So what did that journey look like?
I would say it was very rewarding experience overall. And I wanted to mention one thing over here, like we were talking before the recording, that I'm really, really very mindset person, It's like I just feel like in our life we follow certain patterns. Everybody has certain patterns. Regardless where you are in your life, you're just gonna keep on following that patterns. So coming from the IT world and doing multiple things in my previous life, all that experiences played into this game right now where I am in, right? I call it a game because life is a game, right? We decide
Sure.
how to play it. I didn't know that that is going to happen this way, tell you the truth. But I think all that marketing experience, all those project management experience, all the experiences dealing with people, the relationship building, those were all experiences that have earned for the first 20 years of my life. That all really paid off here to bring me to this position, to position myself in a way that I'm connecting with people because I love to work with people. That's one of my strengths, you can say. I love to connect with people. I love to help them. And no strings attached. I would never say, come invest with me. I'll be the last person to say that. I will go ask, how can I help you? Without even thinking that this person's going to invest with me or no. That's least of my worries. Because it's like something so personal. It's your thing. It's your choice. But if you come to me, ask for me some educational resource or something, I'd love to share that.
Yep.
And you ask me about my experience, I would love to share that. This is how it happened with me or for me. But not exactly is going to be the same thing happen to you or anybody else. And I think everybody should create their own experience anyway. Because otherwise you're trying to live somebody else's life. And if you're trying to live somebody else's life, how successful you're going to be? Maybe
Sure.
never. You're never going to get there because you're never going to be happy. Because it's always that comparison, that thing in your mind, like, oh, that person did this and got there, but I'm not there yet. But where do you want it to go? Like we were talking earlier, right? You're always going to be here. So you have to feel that presence that I am here. This is my life. And I wanted to carve my life. But that being said, that does not mean that you don't look at others. Yes, look at others and learn from others what they did, but tailor it according to your needs or where you want to go.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. And I think that's what initially attracted me to you, Vinki, is, sure, you were a professor at Cal State. But probably long before that, you were a leader and an educator and a teacher within your corporate career as well. So I think that heart of an educator that you bring to the table is what really kind of differentiates you from so many other people that are out there.
Thank you.
Yeah, so thank you for that. I think you're bringing a ton of value to this community, which it's needed because, investing passively, especially when you first get started, is you feel very vulnerable. It can be very scary. We've all heard the stories about Ponzi schemes and people running off with money. So that first wire that you do as a passive investment is always very, very scary. So it's good to know that your investors have the educational resources that you provide as they're starting that journey. So,
Yeah,
well,
because I just feel like, I'm sorry to interrupt you, just wanted to
no,
add
that's
to
good.
that. Because the thing is, the fear or the hesitation is one biggest thing is the knowledge gap, right? So when you mitigate that gap, that hesitation, that fear goes away.
I agree.
What is
Absolutely.
fear? Fear is what they call the abbreviation of fear is false evidence appears
Appearing
real, right?
real. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is no fear. Fear is just like unknown. So unknown, when something is some unknown train that you're walking on, you all of a sudden feel like, oh, I don't have the direction. Where do I go? So you feel lost. So you get confused. So if you're confused, if you're lost, you will never invest. Or if you invest, you'll make a wrong decision. That's the reason I say, do your due diligence, do your homework, learn enough so you can ask the questions. Because if you go pick somebody who does not know anything, they won't even have any questions because they don't know what to ask. They do not know what
Exactly.
questions to ask, right? So if
Exactly.
you have a
Yeah.
little bit of understanding, even if you know what real estate is, what syndication is, at least you can ask, what is syndication? If you never heard the term syndication, you have no clue.
Yep. Yep. Let's talk about your world today. What is Loomba Investments involved with today? How long have you guys been in place? What does the next couple of years look like for you?
So we've been in business for the last 5 years. Like I started as passive and then got into very soon I got a chance to be active GP. So I'm in the financial, I would say the capital market space. And I find the right teams to work with, right deals to work with so that I can make my investors happy. And
Okay.
my goal is, which is very, very audacious and very, very important to me, to touch 1 million lives in a meaningful way.
Love it.
So whether it's through the financial independence or investing in real estate or through my nonprofit efforts, because I have a nonprofit which supports the women and children, and we support multiple initiatives in India because that's
Okay.
what we can afford right now. So throughout the year,
Sure.
we do multiple initiatives, multiple causes that we support. That's all geared towards women and children. And our investors who invest with Loomba Investment Group, by default, they're not just getting the returns, they're getting all the benefit of helping this needy, this poor people. We do not
Okay.
accept any donations because we're privately run. But by investing with us, because our profit share goes to these initiatives, so our investors get that benefit of helping so many needy people as well.
Fantastic. So is it a portion of the returns go to the nonprofit? Is that how that's structured in your deals, or?
Yes, my nothing is structured in the deal, just my profit share. We don't
Got
take
it.
anything from the investors. We do not take any profit share from the investors. Whatever is in the deal, whatever we lay out, everything goes back to them. From whatever we make as a Lumba Investment Group, we take portion of our profit and we support the causes because that's close to my heart. Because
Yeah.
I've been in this life, for a long time, right? So I have taken so much. So I just feel like this is my way of giving back. So
Yeah.
if I can make this much difference in somebody's life, or just bring the next meal on the table so they have this much space in their mind to think something else, that how they can better their life, I'm done with this life basically.
Yeah. Thank you for that. I have been looking at some partnerships with impact equity as well for similar reasons. We're named impact equity because we want to have impact not only for our investors, but for the communities as well that we house and provide affordable housing. So I love that you're doing that. And I didn't know about that before we hopped on this podcast. So I am liking you more and more, Vinki, with every interaction that we have. So I know you're like pretty heavily involved in the education, not only with investors, but also in this operator community as well. Do you care to talk about that a little bit, or how you're involved in some of the events that you do?
Sure. Like I told you earlier, my strength is like working with everybody, connecting with others, connecting the dots. Basically, you can say it, whether you can say it came from my corporate mindset or my previous experiences in my life. Because like I said, everybody has certain patterns. It's formed knowingly, unknowingly as you go through life. And then you follow those patterns. Again, knowingly, unknowingly, you're going to follow that.
Sure.
So that's the true track record for anybody. Everybody talks about track record, due diligence. Let's do the track record check or background check for this operator, this and that. Let's see what the actual track record for the person is, how they've been living this life, what kind of experiences they've been creating all through their life. Because the thing is, if person is doing something, let's say, for example, in a limited manner with the corporate background, whatever background this person is coming from, and then so limited, just like cutting down on everything and just making wrong decisions or whatever, you think all of a sudden if that person moves into real estate, they're going to be already enlightened and they're going to start doing things differently?
Sure. Yeah.
How would that change? That's what I don't understand. That just by having couple deals, one deal, two deal, even 10 deals, doing that, the pattern is going to stay the same. That's not going to change. So that's not the true reflection of the track record. It's just like knowing that person beyond the real estate too. That's important to me, because a lot of people, they might not have you say, oh, I don't think they have a good reputation in the real estate. But you do not know their ethics, how hard they're working to bring their deals back on track, especially in today's day. They are going out of their ways. And you will see down the road, year down the road, 2 years down the road, the deal's going to back on track. All of a sudden, they're going to get another feather in their hat and people are going to think, oh, they're so good.
Yeah.
Because people have short-term memory. Whatever they see, they start talking about that. So you have to go beyond that to create. That's what I'm saying. Create your own life. Don't try to live somebody else's life. I hope I didn't really derail your question.
No. I think that's great. I think, there's new people coming into this space all the time. And I think it's important. Like I always use this idea that track record starts long before where they are today. Like they might have been in corporate America, like yourself, corporate America for 22 years, professor at Cal State. Like you have been doing high level work for decades, and that track record transfers very well into what you're doing today. The same skills and the behaviors and the habits that made you successful in those other roles are making you successful in this, and will continue beyond this, I'm sure, as well, into your philanthropic activities as well. So absolutely, I agree with you. And I like this idea. Like I will share with people quite often, like anybody can show up to a one-on-one meet and greet Zoom and come across, in a very positive way with high integrity and good energy and all that other stuff. But like watching that person for years in many different facets and many different venues, like how are they showing up in all areas of their life? Like that's what I want to know before I hand my dollars over to somebody. Not just how are they going to show up when they're behind the Zoom camera, like how are they going to show up in their community, in front of their employees, in front of our tenants, all of those things. So I could not agree with you more, Vinki. That is fantastic. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. No, I think that's the way life goes. Those are, you can say, the rules of nature or life's rules, you can say, So everything goes beyond the surface level, whatever we are trying to do. So if you get to that level, I don't think anything matters, because you know the way you work, or you know your ethics, you know your values. If you have your set values, set ethics, how you work, does not matter what industry you work on. You're gonna be excelling no matter what you do.
Yep.
And I think people are very important. I think that's a question you were asking me, how to collaborate with people. And then that's what I was trying to say. My strength is connecting with people or connecting dots. So my strength is working in collaboration, because I know that alone you can go only so far. And then we are collaborating with others. It's one versus many. And that's what I always talk about AI too. AI is what? It's one mind versus many.
Yeah.
So as long as you have the ability to use that better, like for example, AI too, if you know exactly what to ask, what prompts you can use to get the information you're looking for, you can definitely do that. And I'm going to bring in Dan Sullivan's book in here too, Who Not How, right? He talks about that too in the book. If you have read the book, or if you haven't read the book, you should read that book. It's all about collaboration. It's like, it's not necessarily you need to know everything in this lifetime, because there's no possible way that you will know everything or you'll learn everything in this lifetime. But the good thing about this life is everybody is good at something, and you need to find out what you need, and you need to find that person who's good at something, who can help you take there wherever you want it to be. And that's what I tell my investors too. You are busy, they have their full-time jobs, or they wanted to enjoy life the way they wanted to enjoy, or they wanted to do the things that they love. They do not have time to maybe chase the properties or the investments, whatever. So as long as we find the right investments for them, we just kind of helping them, right? So again, that's a collaboration, right? Syndication, a syndicator and investor collaboration right there. So it's just one example, but you can use this example in every facet of your life or any phase of your life, and you can excel in whatever you're doing.
I love it. You brought up my favorite book of the decade, honestly. Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy have put, like, there's 4 or 5 books in the series that are just, all of them are amazing books. So thank you for that. Well, very good. Well, I'm looking at our clock here, and as always, I feel like we could talk for another hour or so. We didn't even get into the state of the economy, or, what you think about the future. So we'll definitely have to reconnect and have you on the show again in the future. But if you do still have a few minutes, I have a handful of questions I'd like to wrap up every interview with, if we can jump into those. All right.
Sure.
So let's jump right in. For the newer passive investor, are there specific educational resources, or maybe a favorite book or podcast that you might suggest to them so they can continue their education journey?
I'm gonna say, like everybody else, Rich Dad Poor Dad, because that's the kind of Bible for a lot of people. And that's one of the good books. Like, everybody recommends that. I'm going to say that too. If you're just starting, just really new, that's a good place to start. But there's a lot of educational resources out there. There's a lot of blogs out there. There's a lot of podcasts, webinar, and there's a lot of expert workshops. There's a lot of conferences where you can, learn all these new strategies. You can find out all these investment groups, even Eventbrite or meetups. You can go look there, type the word real estate. You'll find so many meetups going on. Just find your community, find your tribe, and then start mingling with them. I think that's the best way to do it. And we learn from each other much faster than anything else,
I agree. Great advice. The little purple book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and then networking with other people that are doing what you want to be doing. Great advice. Thank you. We spend a lot of time talking about due diligence. So I'm curious, are there, everybody knows the track record due diligence and, kind of the basics, but are there any new due diligence questions that you have identified that are helping uncover areas that investors should be aware of before moving forward with deals?
That's a really good question when it comes to due diligence, because it's one of the important aspects of investing. And I think we touched on it a little bit earlier. That how due diligence is important and how track record is important. So I would say the best question that you can ask the syndicator or operator, whosoever you're trying to invest with, is what is the exit strategy?
Okay.
Because that's very important to me. Because if you do not know the exit strategy about the deal, it could be convoluted deal. So having multiple exit strategy for every deal is crucial, it's important, and it's makes a deal even better. Let's say, it's a 5-year deal. If somebody tells you, okay, they're looking to refinance maybe at year 3, between year 2 and 3, so you'll get some capital return back at that time. And maybe you're looking to exit year 5, that's one option. And if you have a portfolio, maybe you're looking for a single asset exit or maybe the whole portfolio exit. There's multiple ways to exit. And I think that's the best question that anybody can ask. And I encourage actually everybody to ask the exit strategy for the deal before you're trying to invest.
Absolutely. Yeah, really, really important. All the metrics in the world mean nothing if they don't exit the asset the way that you want. I read an article this week that said understanding what your operator's core metric is that they focus on can be a good indicator too as to what their exit strategy is. So yeah, great. I don't think we spend enough time talking about that as well. We talk about all the metrics, the hold period, all these target returns. But yeah, really, really important to know, when is this investment going to be over? How are they going to sell it? What does that look like? So great question.
Yeah, but the thing is, the thing I wanted to add is just when the investors ask this question, because they themselves, they're thinking about long term. They're not just thinking about the current returns, like what I'm going to get in the distribution, but they're always thinking about, how this property is going to be managed, and eventually how this going to give me the returns that's promised, at the liquidation event. It could be anyone. So it's very highly important to know the exit strategy. And I think one of my good friends, he even talks about beyond exit strategy. Yeah, I think he's writing a book. He already wrote a book too. What next? Because a lot of people think way ahead of the game too. This is the exit. What's going to happen after that too? People even think about that too, because they are prepared then. I'm exit here. That's what I'm going to do next. But that's for the bigger level investments or bigger corporate level businesses.
Sure. Well, and I think it's just as important with the passive investor. If you're working with a group that's doing very quick turn value adds in 2 or 3 years, you're going to have to find a place to put that capital in 2 or 3 years, and there's going to be tax consequences to what's going to be happening on those as well. So yeah, no, I think that's a great question that I need to probably redouble my efforts and my skill set around uncovering those strategies more. So good. Thank you.
And these are all the wealth building strategies. That's the other thing, people have to understand that. Because you are looking to building wealth. It's a long term. We always talk about, real estate investing is a marathon. It's not a sprint, right? It's a wealth building strategy. So you have to think in the long run. That, it's not going to be just going to be investor, you choose to be investor just for 3 years or 5 years. Then I don't think it's worth the effort.
Yeah, there's so much more here, Vinki, I'd love to talk about. So we will definitely have to have you on the show. Let's see, a couple other quick questions, kind of fun questions to wrap this up. Do you have a recent bucket list item that you've checked off of your list or one you're hoping to in the near future?
Oh my God, I think somebody asked me that before too. Yeah, I did check off my one big thing, my biggest fear. I think that opened up the whole world for me, the skydiving. So I took my whole family. We were in Hawaii, I remember that. And my whole family, both of my kids, my husband, and we went for skydiving, and we did the ultimate dive. That was quite an experience. I think that opened me up completely, because it just felt like, on this earth, when we're here, how shallow we are or how we are engrossed within our own bubble, it's like we are just living a limited life.
Yeah.
So when you have those kind of experiences, it's like nothing matters, you just need to step out. You just need to get out of the box. And that's what happened to me. And the other thing I wanted to do is the second biggest goal that I have. I told you already about that. Touch 1 million lives in a meaningful way.
Yeah.
And I'm working towards that. Somebody asked me, how do you count? I'm like, I do not count, because this is my goal, personal goal, to touch 1 million lives in a meaningful way before I exit. So when I exit this life, I'm hoping that my goal is reached. And the other person, he asked me, why so small goal? Because this person was obviously much, much bigger than me, a billionaire. And when I shared my goal, and he's like, why so small goal? When there's like trillions of people, it's like only 1 million, and you might have done 1 million already. And I'm like, I didn't think about that.
I like that perspective. Yeah. You can change it from million to millions, right? Absolutely.
Exactly.
I love it. I love it. All right. And then final question for you here today, Vinki. If you had $100,000 that you had to put into a deal this week, but you couldn't put it into one of your own deals, where would you invest those?
That's a really good question. And I'm always looking for good deals to invest outside of my own deals where I can put my money, especially my 401k. And I think if I have $100,000 right now, and if I wanted to invest in something other than my deals, you mean my deals, you're looking for an asset class, or are you looking for a person to invest with? I can definitely invest with you.
Okay. Well, that's the best answer I think I've heard. So very good. No, that's great. Well, awesome, Vinki.
Class, I'm in multifamily. If you're asking asset class, I would say asset class is the storage units, or I will do industrial. But I have both those as well in my portfolio as well.
Well, very good. Well, this has been a lot of fun. I think you brought, as I share all the time, I do feel like you brought a ton of value. I love how you bring this educational spirit to everything that you do. So Vinki, thanks so much for being on the show. How can our investors or our listeners find you if they want to learn more about what you guys are doing or be part of the nonprofit? How can they find you?
I'm all over. By the way, but the best way to connect with me is you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Vinki Loomba, just by my name. And then I do have a Calendly link over there. You can schedule a call. Welcome to do so. And love to touch base and learn more and connect with anybody, basically. Other than that, I have my website, lumbainvest.com. You can go over there and connect that way in multiple ways. I love to connect with everybody and make more connections. If I can help somebody, that'll be the best thing.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you again for coming today. This has been a lot of fun, and I really appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me on your show. I really appreciate that.
And to the audience, as always, we urge you to continue your education journey in the passive investing space. But more importantly than that, we urge you to make the decision to invest in your first or your next passive investment. We are convinced that once you do, you will just wish that you had started that much sooner. So thank you again for joining us today. Be sure to join us again next Thursday for another great episode. And don't forget to like and subscribe on whatever channel you're listening to.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another episode of The Gentle Art of Crushing It. It was an amazing episode. We know we sure learned a lot, and we hope you did as well. We want to take a second and thank you so much for viewing or listening to this episode. And please just know that we only ask for one favor, and that is to make this life magnificent. Thank you, and have a wonderful day.